Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM-FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is your host, Kathy Williams. And I have a treat for you today. We are going to talk with author Cyndi Dale about chakra healing for financial conditions. And Cyndi is the author of more than 24 books, which is pretty amazing, on energy healing and things like that. And I know there's another one coming up really soon as well. So before we get started, I would just love to acknowledge 3 hermits with their little shots, immunity shots, post-exercise shots. I do not like multivitamins, but I can remember to take something that tastes like turmeric or cinnamon and that yumminess. And I've noticed a difference from muscle recovery as well from taking their turmeric shots. So you can find out more about them and their immune boosting products at 3hermits.com. And of course, if you have a question for the show and you're listening live, please call in. We love that freshness, and practical real life application for your questions. And if you have a question after the show or a show idea, feel free to reach out to me at meetkathywilliams.com. Your ideas are always welcome. And in fact, they keep me from having to come up with everything. So thank you. So I'm so excited to welcome Cyndi Dale to the show. Welcome, Cyndi. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm very excited to be here. I can now call myself a sexy mom, which I think I have sons. They're going to go, no, you can't talk like that. But I'm very proud to be wearing that badge. You really should do badges for this, too.
Oh, awesome. I love that. Great idea. I'll send you one.
I'll use it.
Awesome. How old are your sons?
One is 33. He still probably doesn't think mothers have sex, but whatever. And the other one is 21. So I'm the mom with the gap. I did the gap, kind of ages. So while one is crawling, the other one was on the football field. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, a lot of experiences. Chasing one and for one reason and chasing another for another reason.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So I'm really excited to talk about chakras and especially chakras for healing finances, because I first started learning about chakras when I was a teenager. And in fact, that was what really fascinated me about yoga. My yoga teacher recommended some books, and one of them was Chakra Healing by Anodea Judith. I'm not sure what the name of it was, Wheels of Life or something. And that interested me far more than the, put your knee like this and your foot here and all the structural stuff of yoga. So I was sort of like, okay, when do my chakras get healed through this stuff? So, soon after that, I learned Reiki and started to play with energy. And so I'm super curious, because I know a lot of the listeners are into energy healing in one form or another, about how you got into this and your journey, especially also as a mom. Were your kids open to this sort of thing?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I was one of those strange little kids who saw ghosts, and I could perceive colors coming off of my parents. So I knew when my mother was glowing red, I was so in trouble. I knew right? If my dad came home from work and that, yellow center in the stomach, I know now to call it the third chakra. If it was sort of dingy, you know what? It's sad because I knew then he was going to pour 2 martinis instead of 1 and just not talk the rest of the evening. So you figure this out when you're the type of kid I am, but I didn't have that name. I didn't know what the colors were. I didn't know, kind of what made it so I could hear ghosts. Or I remember going to the first funeral I ever went to. My mother's friend, Jean, died, and I was 4 or 5, and she wasn't really in that casket. She was up there near the ceiling. And when I took a class when I was, somewhere in my 20s, and chakras were labeled, my world opened up. It was like, they're energy centers, they're different colors, they're made out of bands and frequencies, and each of them runs something in particular. I fell in love because it explained, well, narcissistically, I guess, it explained me to myself. And then that helped me explain the world, too. And in terms of my sons, my oldest son grew up around this, and I was traveling to work with shamans a lot when he was younger. So I'd come home with this medicine and this shaman thing and this drum, and, he loved it until he got to that certain age where it's like, oh, Mom, drop me off at the church like a block away.
Yeah. I got
my
that going
youngest,
on too.
Exactly, Gabe, he's a baseball pitcher, and he doesn't care because it works. So literally over the summer, I helped him clear one of his chakras, and he's a pitcher. And just by doing that energetic, the next measurement he had on his fastball velocity was up 8 miles an hour. So
wow.
They're practical. It's practical. You found that, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's funny because sometimes I have to remind my sons, hey, remember when you were 3 and you did this particular thing? It worked for you. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I'll do it. But then at the same time, they love things like Avatar. And Avatar references the chakras, references the elements, stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, guys, this is real stuff going on. Maybe not to that level on TV, but you have access to all of that too.
Star Wars, the Dark and the Light Force. We were really into both generations of my kids, the Power Rangers. We just went to their updo like a couple years ago when a new Power Rangers movie came out, and it was like, this stuff really is real. I mean, earth, wind, whatever all of it is. So it's in the culture, and it's always been in the culture, and it's in our bodies. We know this stuff in our soul, too.
So as you were growing up, I'm curious, were you aware of the fact that this was not everyone's reality, that not everyone could see what was going on?
It took me a while because I really thought I was normal.
Right.
I kind of hovered in that sort of a fantasy till I was probably 8 or 9, thinking, well, of course other people see fairies, and I got in trouble for it all the time. My parents would be like, stop making things up. Stop waking up at night. And so they did that, but I thought it was just because I was annoying them rather than this wasn't real. It did grow on me, though, the more frequently my parents talked about people like me. Like my dad would talk about his mother, my grandmother Nellie, and he'd go, she sees ghosts. She talks to ghosts. That's not normal, Cyndi. So, white, wonder-bred Norwegian Lutheran, by teen years, I knew I could still do this, but I shut it down because you want to fit in. And the irony, of course, is I shut it down, and then, Kathy, I got all kinds of illnesses. Codependency, I already was codependent, anorexia, bulimia, OCD. I went into therapy at 19, 20 because I think when we're not being ourselves, when we're not activating or accessing our subtle energy, our invisible energy, what's left of us? Just 1% of us. So, of course, all these issues just sort of festered inside of me.
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned that you shut it down, because I know that that's happened with a lot of listeners. So what did you do to sort of uncork that again?
Well, I had a therapist who said, you're not only OCD, all the stuff that goes on the insurance form so they get paid. She said, you're not only all of those things, you're also psychic. And I thought, and these days nobody likes to call themselves psychic because that's sort of like the not cool word. Subtle energy is the cool word. But I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I started studying and researching, and I was so lucky that I spent really a lot of the next 2 decades traveling to other countries, working with healers and shamans, and I took a few chakra classes. And, so it opened up for me that I learned from Native people in different indigenous communities for whom this is not abnormal. It's like, well, of course I talk to the plants. Of course they may not have used the word chakra, but most cultures do have something like the word chakra. They really do, whatever word they're using. Even traditional Chinese medicine, there's points, there's centers. Yeah. And it normalized it for me back to when I was a kid. But I wasn't alone anymore. Now I wasn't different. And then yoga took off like you're talking about, and it's like, now it's cool. Like, when did I become cool? I don't know.
Oh, how fun. Wow. Yeah. I've seen that in my own studies. I have a teacher who's a Hawaiian shaman, and I've been to Peru and definitely done a bunch of chakra meditation in India. And there are so many parallels because, of course, it's not unique to one philosophy. I mean, what's true is true, not just on one corner of the globe.
Exactly. I had a really interesting experience. I was going to a seminary, a Christian seminary, a couple decades ago, and working toward a Master's of Divinity, which I didn't finish because then I got pregnant with my second son, and, enough is enough of your energy. But I went to Peru and participated in ceremonies, sacred ceremonies, in the traditional Peruvian way, came back to the seminary, and the pastor led a ceremony that was almost identical to what I had just done in the jungle. And I'm like, do people know this really is universal? I hope we can figure this out someday.
Oh, that would be amazing. And I mean, even you just pointing that out through your books and through the interviews and things like that, provides a bridge for people. So I'm so excited about the idea of chakras for financial well-being, because people approach finances often from a very mental place, right? Oh. And there are more and more classes about energy with finances and looking at your patterns and programming and stuff like that. How did you start or where did you start to formulate this as an idea to help people clear up their major issues with money?
Well, it was actually a couple decades ago. I had written my first book, and then I needed money. My first work was about chakras, and I thought, I'm a single mom, and living in a tiny apartment, I need money. And I don't think there's anything more spiritual than saying, I need money. I own, deserve, and worth, and valued by money. And I read all these books about how to get prosperous and how to follow your bliss and blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I think it's simpler than this. And I had a dream where a guide showed me, money can be made through the chakras too. And I don't mean made like we've got money trees that chug out coins, but everybody has a stronger chakra, one that's more primary, one that you're able to use more than the others because every chakra has a brand, every chakra has a task. And if you're going to be an opera singer, you're going to really want to use that chakra that's about singing or communicating. And if you're a football player, you've really got to use the chakra that gives you that physical power. And yes, we have different chakras at different times in our life that we want to express through. But in the dream, the guide was like, just figure out your main chakra right now and follow the clues in it to attract abundance. And that worked for me. So I wrote a book, Attracting Prosperity Through the Chakras. And so it's an idea I've been with for a really long time. And I love to help people come at something so practical and necessary, especially in a day like this when so many people are out of jobs or they don't have a place to live. I just like to say, get a sense of what at least one of your major chakras is, and get to know it enough that you can style your way to do abundance, your way to look for a job, your way to run your finances based on that theme.
Beautiful. Okay. So I guess, for those people who are not so familiar about chakras, we better start there.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of chakras. I know most of us know about the basic 7. So I'll stick with those. I actually work with the 12 chakra system, but we'd be on for 4 hours. So, and most of us are able to use one of our basic 7 chakras. They're located kind of in the spine. They each function physically, psychologically, and spiritually. And so some of us are very first chakra people. So think about, as I'm talking about this, if you're one of these people, in the hips, very physical, very doing, got to do it. You manifest, you do, and you make things happen. It's red. Second chakra, orange, in the abdomen, creative, feelings. Are you the feeling person? You know who you are. There you are. And creative, who you are. Right? So you have to create to make money. So we can talk about that. Third chakra, yellow, in the solar plexus, structured thinking, thought, get out your date book, apply for things on time, structure people. Heart, relationship, healing, what's happening in everybody's relationship, what do they need? It's like Lucy in the cartoon. She sits there and she makes 5 cents, solving people's problems. Throat, blue, communication, thinking, philosophy, speaking, anything about communication. Sixth chakra in the brow. It's typically seen as purple. Different colors, different folks. Visual, aesthetic, seeing, strategy. Write your business plan if you're going to make more money. 7th chakra, white on the top of the head. It's spiritual. So that's everything for money for the 7th chakra person is about interconnectivity. And, I'll just add the 10th because it's fun. And we're skipping a couple numbers, but 10th is underneath the ground. I know, but I can go back later. 10th is under the ground. It's nature. So some people, it's all about, you're going to make money landscaping or talking to animals. So it's nature. I just have to include that one because some people are all about cosmic. Universe, stars, nature. That's the 10th chakra.
Beautiful. And what a concise, wonderful description right before we go to break. So when we come back, we'll get more into, what is yours? How do you find it? And finances. Woo! All right. Thank you so much for being here with me, Cyndi. We'll be right back.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. This is your host, Kathy Williams, and today I'm having a conversation about healing your financial issues through the chakra system, which is a fascinating idea. So I've been talking with author Cyndi Dale, and she's the author of more than 27 books about energy healing, chakras, and the like. And before we jump back into the show, Cyndi just mentioned, the chakra system. So if you're not familiar, you're going to want to rewind and catch that part. And I'd love to invite you to reach out to me at meetkathywilliams.com. I also love YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I post about Hawaii life there sometimes, here and there, and Facebook as well. So those are all the different places you can catch me. And I have a class coming up on December 11th called Clearing the Blocks to Your Intuition. Because as Cyndi mentioned earlier, a lot of times we shut it down for various reasons because we're no longer seeing ourselves as normal or these capacities as normal, or they scare us. That happened to me most definitely. So we're all in this together. A lot of us have shut it down, and if you've noticed that for yourself and like to increase your intuitive capacities, catch us on December 11th, and that is at meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming. So back to the show. All right, Cyndi, you just outlined the major chakras in the body and also the 10th chakra under the body. And I know that probably surprises a lot of people. They're like, oh, wait, the first 7 or more go up, and then the 10th is under the body. And thank you for bringing awareness to there are many more than 7 chakras. And so you mentioned earlier that you had this sort of dream in which you were guided to make money through the chakra that was, I don't want to say most powerful, but sort of your orientation.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. It's like a lens. It's the lens you want to operate through to be who you are for a certain time period. Maybe your whole life, maybe just a part of your life.
Cool. Okay, so then what I'm getting is that chakra could change.
It can change, and we typically have secondary ones. But we tend to be focused for a certain number of years on tasks, and like for instance, my youngest son, we talked about him. His strongest chakra is the first. That's the one in the hips. That's very physical, and that's really all he ever did. He couldn't really learn a thing. Dyslexia, ADHD, until maybe about 1 or 2 years ago, he called me up and he goes, Mom, like my ears are weird. Something's happening. And his whole fifth chakra, the communication chakra, started to go online. And his papers got better. And he's communicating. And I don't believe that's his first, his primary chakra yet. But I'm sort of looking down the road and going, post a baseball career, is this the kid who coaches? Is this the man who is on the radio or who is doing, emceeing or whatever it is he might be doing? So I can see glimmers of what might happen later once he doesn't need to be quite as oriented in that first chakra, too.
That makes sense, and what a beautiful illustration. Okay, so how do we go about finding which chakra we're oriented toward right now?
Well, I think some of it is logic. Logic is just fine. And for those of you, I just know some of you are going, okay, you skipped from 7 to 10. What? I will tell you the others. We can't leave you dangling, because what if I don't tell you the rest and you miss it? You miss who you are, right? So 7th is white, 8th is a little bit on top of the head. It's black and silver. It's the mystic chakra. So shamans who can use all of the gifts, that's where you are. There's a gold chakra over the head about an arm's length. Those are for people who are harmonizers, the ones who are really about let's make the world sing together. All right, let's bring us all together. We did 10th underneath the ground. 11th is hands and feet. It's rose. It's sort of outside. This one not very many people know about. It's the commanding chakra. So a lot of world leaders use it, when they boss people around, but shamans use it to change the weather. So anytime you're really commanding natural or supernatural forces, that's who you are and what you are. And the 12th is special and unique to each of us, so you have a special gift. So just sort of tuck that in the back of your mind. So the way you start is logic. Like, what kind of person are you? Look back. First chakra, are you super physical? I'm a shaman, but I really work through my first chakra. If I'm going to make money, I got to sit down and do something. If I'm going to write a book, I have to sit down and do it. Emotions, creativity, second. Are you structured? You're not going to get anything done unless you got your calendar. That's third. Relationship, healing, making everybody better. You're a heart person. Communication, you got to communicate, you got to listen, you got to hear, you got to this and that and the other thing. Got to get guidance, fifth chakra. 6, are you visual? Are you aesthetic? Do you need a plan? Do you need to set goals? There you are. 7, spiritual. I mean, sometimes spiritual people have a really hard time making money because it's about connection to divine. But if you look back, historically, and you never let anything happen unless you're in connection or meditation or prayer, that's who you are. 8th, you're mystic. You hear the guides. The supernatural world tells you what to do. 9th, that's the harmony. You will do well financially and you're the type of person who's got to create community. You got to create bonds that work for everybody. 10th, nature. You're all about the outdoors or nature, you're 10th. And if you're just a really wonderfully, beautifully bossy person and you've got to lead, think about your 11th chakra. Think about that as your main chakra right now.
Beautiful. Okay. And so it's interesting because as we were beginning this conversation, I thought maybe we look at what's dysfunctional and try to remedy that. But it sounds to me like we actually look at what is functional and go with that.
You can go either way. I'm really glad you brought that up, because if you look from the dysfunctional pattern, you're still going to get to the same place. So for instance, dysfunctional first chakra is going to be how you think about yourself and perceive yourself if you have no money. Like if you don't have physical items, if you don't have stuff, because first chakra people are manifestors, they're physical. Like if you oriented towards stuff and you feel so bad about yourself if you can't get the stuff that you want, you're a first chakra person. If when you don't have money or things aren't going well financially and you're a second chakra person, you're going to be so depressed and down in the dumps. So your feelings are going to turn upside down. So you can come at it dysfunctionally as well as functionally. You know, third chakra people, when they're not on their game financially, they cannot organize. They can't organize. They're just, they can't, and they're typically decluttering people. But if everything's clutter, that's the sign that you're not operating correctly as a third chakra person through your third chakra. Does that make sense? So you can flip every side of the coin also.
Okay. So let's say I'm not a third chakra person because that's just not my orientation.
I'm not either.
People have tried to get me to become a third chakra person, and it's just crazy making for them. So let's say, well, I mean, this is a practical example. Before I cleared out this room, which I completely cleared out to make it a new working space, the desk was completely cluttered. Right? The desk was just like overflowing, and I was talking with someone this morning about timing because there was a period during which I was like, I need to really clear that off, but no energy to do it. And then this one day, it was just like, boing, this is the timing to clear the desk. The energy was there, everything was happening, and I just did it quickly, effectively, all of that. And so when I just want to help clarify for listeners, like you're not saying that if someone's space is cluttered like that they are a third chakra person and that, it's just dysfunctional. Yeah.
No, and that's great. But if you are a third chakra person and you're not doing well financially and everything's decluttered, you've got to get a program. You've got to get scheduled. You've got to declutter. Your money will go up if you put things in order as a third chakra person. So we play with all the chakras. So for instance, I'm very first chakra and I manifest best. I make money best. Everything I make money at, I don't pre-plan it. I don't do the visual. I don't do the sixth chakra. Let me see where this is going to go, right? Let me create my business plan. I don't organize first, which a third chakra person would need to do to bring in money. I don't even sit and wait to feel happy or deal with my emotions or my feelings or create my space, which would work for a second chakra person. Makes sense to start getting on the money train. I just have to get something done. And people will often say, why are you doing that? It's like, well, I just, if I need money, I've got to sit down and write this book, or I'm going to start this class. I don't think it through. I don't plan it. I don't do anything like that. I just do something. And you know what? When I operate from that body sense, because I'm first chakra, it ends up providing me prosperity. But a thinker is just, they're not going to want to do it that way. They'll feel very uncomfortable.
That makes sense. Okay, so I know a lot of listeners are healers, and sometimes, especially probably now, there's more of an ebb and a flow, right? Like, especially if you're a hands-on healer, right? This year may not have been the best for you. And so healers, coaches, but there are all sorts of people who listen, teachers, nannies, you name it. So I'm curious about those of us who are like, well, Cyndi, I really don't know. Sometimes I get a bunch of calls in a week for sessions and things. And sometimes money seems to show up out of nowhere. And I don't really think it depends on how happy I am or how organized I am or how in touch with nature. I don't see a pattern. What advice do you have for that?
Well, there probably is a pattern of some sort. We don't always perceive it as part of it, right? So, and we have to, any system, you got to take it with like 10 grains of salt. But I do think there's typically a pattern underneath it. Now, there's real life. Life is chaotic. We can do something, and it doesn't mean we're going to get an outcome tomorrow. It just doesn't mean that, because we're part of a community. We're part of a visible and an invisible community. So I may sit down and write a book. It does not mean I'm going to make money tomorrow because I wrote a page. It's not going to work that way. Right? So think in terms of the practicality and the fact that we're part of like moving waves and flows of energy. So we don't get to say, oh, a little bit like how we can sometimes twist the law of attraction, like, because I think it is so. Well, good luck. There's 700, billion other people here thinking also. So if you go with your own flow, though, right? If you stay in your own energy, your own vibe, if you operate on the wave that best suits you, you will eventually get ahead. You will connect with the people you need to connect with. That's what I would say. So it's about being, well, really, I'm saying be who you are. And that's what ends up with the good results. It's that. And you know what? If something's not working, try something else. I mean, whatever. Or don't try anything for a while and take a break and then see where you're led. But ultimately, we're talking about you're going to do well if you be who you are. You're never going to make it faking it. You can make it for a while. I've seen clients do that. They do it in the style of their mentor, or they do something because this book says do it that way. They might even go up for a while, but you know what? There's like crashes that way because you can't maintain it when you have to push your way up the mountain rather than, sort of walk around it on your own path.
I love that. It's like allow it to be more organic than following someone else's system. And that leads me to a question that I'll ask on the other side of the break. So thank you, Cyndi. Oh, what a fun conversation with Cyndi Dale. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. This is your host, Kathy Williams, and today's conversation is with author Cyndi Dale. We're talking about chakra healing for financial woes. And Cyndi's just been talking about essentially being yourself and not following someone else's way of doing finances, because they may actually be oriented very differently from you. And we were just talking in the chat about this could even include your family. So your family may do money very differently from the way you naturally would do it. And I'd love to hear more about that, Cyndi.
Well, especially if you're more the black sheep, you'll understand this, right? So I have many examples. I'm thinking about my dad's family, and we were raised with my dad's family. I've got several cousins, and my uncle and almost all of the kids except one were doctors, and very third chakra, very smart, very organized, did a plan, figured out where to go to school, where to do their residency, very, very third chakra. I mean, that would just make sense, right? My one cousin, though, oh my gosh, he kept trying to do it their way. I remember going over there and hearing the fights, hearing his father yelling at him, hearing him, crying, hearing him yelling, hearing him upset because everything he was told to do fit the third chakra, which he wasn't. He was friendly, fifth chakra, talkative, chatty, the class clown, got in trouble all the time, I'm sure, in class, right? And, I mean, he tried the military, third chakra. They kept putting him in third chakra settings, schools, this, that, and finally he went into sales when he was about, 30-ish years old, did brilliantly. Guess what he's doing? Communicating, gets paid well, has had a great streak in his profession, loves what he does. There's a rubber on the road example of, kind of how you can't really do it somebody else's way. You can mix and match a little bit. I have another sister who's very creative. She's also really second chakra, and she did well in banking, but it's too third chakra.
Really?
I mean, come on. It's like, it wasn't her thing. Guess how she's doing beautifully now financially? She and her husband built a house. He's very first chakra, a lot of 10th chakra building. He made it, he designed it, etc. She decorated it. And they've created this amazing house that is really kind of a patterning for how they're going to make money, blending their gifts. So I just think it's so useful to get that basic nubbin of how do you do it? And the chakras are a tool for that.
Beautiful. So it sounds like one thing to really start to look at from what you said a little earlier in the show is to look at the patterns. Look at what's shown up. For me, I go on vacation and then I get all these calls. I used to get headaches because, I'm like, 23 people just called me today, and it's like that would just happen. Or I'd go on, not even vacation, I'd go on the workshops to learn new things or whatever, and then I'd get all these calls and I'd say, why do I do this to myself? But it's like, it's not me necessarily doing it to myself. It's just
It's
I guess,
your
a byproduct.
energy. You're filling in. You're filling yourself in. You're gathering new data, new intuition, new creative, new ways of being yourself. People sense that. They go, oh, she's such a bright light. I really like her, right? They feel it. So they just feel it. I know I get so overwhelmed with work, and the only way that I can stop the faucet is to go on vacation. I'm the opposite of you, because I have to go do something where I'm not doing a working event. Like, I go walking. I love to take walking trips. And you know what? The emails, the work that comes in goes way down. I mean, I'm walking, which a physically active person likes. It fuels me, right? But I'm not doing a work event which would attract more attention, attract more money experiences. I'm doing something different that's not work, so the work doesn't come in, which is why I go on vacation personally, right?
To have a break.
It's funny how it's funny the twists and the turns on this thing.
Yeah, that is so fascinating. So just like personally, I'm super good at making money. And usually it's from relaxing. But for me, it's very hard for me to charge people, right? Like someone, I do not love that conversation. I don't love doing that. It's like that for me is the hard part, really.
And, this is interesting because I would imagine every chakra type has a little bit of a different reason why that would be a little difficult, right? So I think heart-based people are like, oh, this could really hurt the other person. The second chakra person, this could make them feel stressed. The fifth chakra person, oh my gosh, if I charge too much, they're going to go tell people really bad things about me and cut me down. I just think that could be its own spin-off. Like, why we don't ask for what we should ask for. And I get through it. Well, I'm very first chakra though, okay? So I get through it by telling myself, you know what? This is my body. I'm first chakra. I'm body. I'm physical. If my body is going to be with this person for the hour, it's going to get rewarded for it. That's it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
But, the classic in the spiritual community for like letting yourself charge is it's an exchange of energy. It is just energy. So if you're gonna share your time, if you're gonna share your feelings, if you're gonna share your creativity, if you're gonna share your ability to be structured like you're an accountant, whatever you do, it's an exchange of energy. So that's always a really classic and awesome way to approach that conversation too.
Yeah, I think for me that's such a fascinating thing because I think my reason is a heart reason, which is like making money is easy for me. And so I don't need it. They need it more than I do. I got over that point of view to a big degree, but some of it might be hanging in there a little bit.
But a lot of healers are like that. And and then when I, was really starting in all my training, you didn't charge money. Like a couple of decades ago, whatever it was, 25 years or whatever, the thought was, well, it's spiritual energy. How can you charge? So there's different judgments about the taking in of money, especially if you do healing work. I don't see lawyers worry about it. I don't see accountants worry about it. I don't see real estate agents worry, right? They put their percentages on there, but there is something about the modeling of being in service, being a woman, being a mom. If you're a mom, you freely give that energy. So there's these setups that we have to be aware of too.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. Just the ability to look at, okay, what chakra is my orientation? What are my excuses as well? How do they fit in?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Smiling there.
Right? Well, isn't that how we have to sometimes talk to ourselves? What are my excuses, right? How am I letting myself off the hook? How do I know how to be myself and I'm not letting myself? I had a money therapist years ago. She was so helpful. And she boiled stuckness down to two basic approaches. She said, if you're stuck financially, if you can't get going and you know what you need to get going, right? You kind of have that sense of it already. She said, there's just two things you do. You, A, work on the emotions, because there might be, deep grief or shame, or, I feel guilty making money, or I feel guilty leaving my kids at home when I go to work, or whatever it is. She said you work on their feelings, but if that's not working, then you set up a structure and you force yourself. She said, I know. And that would work for me as a first chakra person or a third. But you know what? There's something to that. Because no matter our style, we can design a structure that works for us, right? The harmonizer, the ninth chakra, I want to save the world. I need to save the planet. I need to save the dolphins. Beautiful, beautiful calling. You can't do that sitting in your home just watching movies about dolphins or hunger or whatever. So once you have that tip off, what's the right structure for you? Do you have to get a job? Do you or volunteer for an organization? And that eventually, kind of leads to you writing a grant. So there's always a way in if you have the sense of yourself.
So sense of yourself comes first.
Yeah, it does. It does. It just has to come first. And I think it's more complicated when we are generalists, when we're really good at a lot of things, right? And so sometimes that really indicates you're more the eighth chakra shaman, because a shaman has all the gifts, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I still say, you know what, then still pick one or two ways to start. You can't be all things to all people. Pick one or two styles, one or two chakras. If you pick two, do a blend of them, or pick one to get yourself going, and then later switch into like a different style if you want to. But you talked about how we can make excuses for ourselves, and we can do that if we just sit and be good at everything instead of actually just going, doing, picking, selecting also.
Right. It sounds like in a way that first chakra can be really foundational, because, if you're living up here, way up high, grounding whatever you'd like to do into the physical world and taking action, like writing a book or whatever needs to be done action-wise.
Especially in the Western culture, the first chakra is a really good anchoring. You don't even have to consider or make it your base, your most important orientation. But we do have to consider it, because in the West, this is what we do. I mean, we're doers. I mean, it's just how we are. So think about, let's say you're a seventh chakra person, you're a spiritualist. You love spirit and praying and meditating. There's a business there. You can pray with people. You can meditate for the world. You can teach about meditation. You can still be who you are and attract money through those capabilities. And you can still anchor down in the first chakra and figure out what's the task, what's the step that's going to enable you to bring that gifting into the world too.
Beautiful. Yeah, and in India, they really emphasize that first chakra, holding the energy, waking that guy up to expand everything else. So thank you so much for being with me here today, Cyndi. Do you have any last words before we let people know how to find more with you?
The other thing I want to say is let this be happy. Making money is happy. I mean,
imagine that.
Doing it your way is happy. Living in your own style. If you're a sixth chakra visualizer, wear wild clothes and people will pay attention to you and you're going to get noticed, and maybe you go on the stage and you get paid lots of money. I don't care how you do it your way and let it be a joyful opportunity of expression. I mean, this isn't just about following a bunch of ritual. It's like, this is about expression.
Beautiful. Expressing yourself. And it just keeps coming back right to that. So, not other people's methods or ways, but really tapping into knowing and being more of you. And that's what this show is about as well. So thank you for just driving that home, Cyndi.
Thank you, my pleasure.
It's been a joy to have you here. And where can people find out more about you?
Super simple, CyndiDale.com, spelled funny, CYNDI, CyndiDale.com, my website.
Wonderful. And all of her books are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and support your local retailers. They could really use it right now. So if they don't have it in stock, they can order it as well. So thanks, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Cyndi. So delightful to have you on the show. We'll be back again with another episode in 2 weeks.